like how we get things on Twitter, and what are the problems, or using Facebook and things you need to know about that. And also, we know that some people don't use a social media platform, and so we have chance to experiment with kind of role playing what it's like to use a truth sandwich idea while talking to somebody who may have a very different approach than we do. So I really encourage you to think of trying to come sometime, because we have a pretty good time with that.
Ed, I just wanted to mention that we've got the one coming up Friday, which is I think the 20th. And then we're going to skip the next Friday, which is the Friday before Memorial Day. And then starting for the summer, we're going to have them the first and third Friday of the month. So we'll make sure that information gets out there. But for those on the call who have joined us, there's some that join almost every Friday. Just wanted to let you know we're going to change things around a little bit for the summer.
Great, thanks.
Good.
Ed, Nick has joined us if you want.
Yes, and I have the pleasure of introducing him. Well, it's like we've been talking about in the chat about a lot of the misinformation and disinformation we're seeing, and some things that are really upsetting. And many people, brought up the fact that people are still questioning whether Trump won, or saying that he did win. But I know that every news cycle, it seems like we get another big news story, and sometimes it feels like we're just reacting to things. So our guest tonight is going to help us focus on one thing that's coming up, and that's the January 6th committee public hearings. And what I'm hoping is that we can prepare for what kind of lies will be swirling around, and can know how to respond, and be able to message effectively against the lies using the truth sandwich model. Nick's a writer and activist. He's based in Oregon. Isn't it great? We can just have people from any place just come. All they have to do is travel down the hall maybe and slide into their desk chair. Anyhow, Nick went to Cornell and then followed up with a master's degree from Stanford. He's been known for his political reporting. Formerly, he was editor-in-chief of Dems Right Press, but you may have encountered him in the past on Huffington Post if you read that. But now he's executive director and co-founder of Demcast. I don't know if you've encountered this organization. Their vision is to cultivate, amplify, and maximize the impact of grassroots digital media, bolstering blue electoral and policy victories at all levels of government across America. So we've asked him here tonight to talk about what to expect with the January 6th committee hearings, and what we need to do to spread the truth about that. And we also want him to share some about what Demcast is about and how people can get involved with that. He's no stranger to truth sandwiches, and he leads a very large group of digital warriors out there fighting for truth and for right. Now, Nick, I want you to know that we're asking people to put their questions in the chat. You don't have to worry about watching that, because Linda Callis is going to be moderating them. And after you've gotten through talking, she'll be asking questions, so you don't have to worry about what's in the chat. So welcome, Nick, to Truth Brigade, Illinois, and thanks for coming.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to engage in the conversation.
Good.
So should I just roll?
Yeah, just roll. Well, no, I can talk to you. How's that? I'll talk to you a little bit. So what's the timeline now? Is it certain when the committee hearings are starting? What are we looking forward to then? When we're going to be listening?
We're pretty sure. So Demcast is a part of a coalition called the Not Above the Law Coalition, and we're so it's a huge coalition of organizations that have been working hard since Trump got into office, actually, to hold people accountable who need to be held accountable, and you may have signed up for this when there were some actions during impeachment in particular across the nation that the coalition helped to make happen. So and we're actually sort of on the leadership on the comp side of the coalition, specifically around the January 6th committee hearings. So we are looking at June. It's either June 8th or June 9th as the kickoff for the public hearings. We have had people on our calls who work for the committee, who are liaisons from the committee, who are guaranteeing that there are some pretty major shoes to drop during the public primetime hearings. Most of them are going to be in prime time, and which is smart. It's good. It's good theater. The timing is, whether it was intentional or unintentional, is good as we head into summer before the midterms, so that we can really help frame the anti-democracy party as what it is as primaries are wrapping up. We don't know, because the committee is keeping it quite close to the vest, what these shoes are that are going to drop. So it makes it hard to prep. But we are going to be Demcast and through our partner networks and everything, we're gonna be really pushing rapid response content. So there are whole teams set up to cut video and socialize that video quickly, from the like in real time, basically, as the hearings are taking place. And yes, a big part of what we're going to need to do is monitor what the other side is saying. I would expect that the right, because of the nature of the hearings, I would expect that the right is going to be, there's going to be some Pizzagate like scandal that's going to pop out in right-wing corners
Yeah.
at the time that the committee hearings are happening, to try and distract the GOP base from getting any of that information within their information ecosystem bubble. So knowing what that is, being prepared for that is important, but also I think the most important thing related to January 6th is really going to be flooding the zone on social media with the truth, and just trying to leave as little space as possible for right-wing narratives to penetrate. We saw this work really, really well during the especially the first few weeks of the Putin's invasion in Ukraine, where Russian disinformation, troll accounts, and Western proxies were trying to float this idea that Ukrainians were Nazis and U.S. biolabs and all this kind of stuff, and none of it was able to take hold, because everybody was engaged and sharing what was actually happening on the ground. So but there'll certainly be a need for us to pull out our truth sandwich formula pretty regularly during the hearings. We don't want to get caught focusing too much on what the right-wing BS is, though, I think, during this, and really just focus on making sure that we're amplifying the truth.
Right.
And then I think maybe after the series of hearings, there will be more when there's less drumbeat about the content of the hearings. That's when I think we'll be in bigger danger of the sort of counter narratives surfacing from the right wing and sort of taking hold as people's attention starts to drift away from what was uncovered during the process.
So I think I'm hearing you say that you're anticipating that there's going to be some scandal that the Trump Republicans will pull out of the hat, that they're going to be bringing out just at the same time to kind of distract. Is that's basically what you're expecting?
It's a guess. My thinking is that they don't want to touch these hearings with the 10-foot pole. Just like, I mean, they're good at disinformation, right? So and we know that even if you're trying to refute information, if you're repeating the information, that's not good for your side. So my assumption is that there's going to be some bombshell thing about Hunter Biden's laptop and child pornography or something like that, because this is what they deal in. They'll come up with a whopper and try and distract their side as much as possible while the hearings are happening.
Well, can you explain, because I think that there may be some people here who haven't really encountered Demcast before and don't really know what it's about. And I know that I've been going to briefings for a while, but I don't know all of what there is and how you got started. But it seems like you have a pretty big reach in terms of how much impact you're having. Do you want to talk a bit about Demcast?
Sure. So I was a digital activist during the 2018 midterms, really electorally focused, trying to make sure that the party of Trump had got as many losses as they could get. And my partner Lori and I noticed that there was critical infrastructure missing on the left, where the right was flooding the zone, like I'm talking about, with disinformation, and we needed a equal and opposite response on our side, and it just wasn't there. There wasn't a coordinating entity trying to help make that happen. Heidi's here. Hi Heidi. Just started in chat. Heidi's with Demcast. So in 2019, in the fall of 2019, we founded Demcast formally, and with really the goal of helping to create an army of digital social media users who could spread truth and fight disinformation online. Our approach is to find people who want to do that, orient them, offer training opportunities, offer engagement opportunities, engage people on platform and in Facebook groups and Twitter DM groups and Instagram groups, to amplify each other's content, amplify critical content that's coming out from pro-democracy leaders, and strategize about how to beat back right-wing talking points. And we've grown to tens of thousands of people have signed up, and consistently share content through our hashtag frameworks and our toolkits. And in the 2020 cycle, we had about 36 billion social media impressions. And last year, in an off-election year cycle, we matched that, and we're greatly outpacing it here in 2022 as we grow and as energy starts to build around the midterms, obviously Roe, and just all the curveballs we've gotten, like the SCOTUS nomination and the Ukraine war this year. So Yeah, so we're trying to be a consistent presence, a quick, consistent and growing presence. We partner with a lot of groups, a lot of local indivisible groups, a lot of swing left groups, and national groups like Sister District or that have sort of an electoral focus, but also like a lot of pro democracy organizations like Common Cause and Public Citizen and Stand Up Republic, who are doing important work in the anti-disinformation space.
Well, I noticed that you mentioned Instagram and Facebook as well as Twitter. Some people seem like they're just focused on Twitter. Talk about, are you focused mostly on Twitter, or are all three platforms ones that you work in quite effectively?
Yeah, well, the thing about Demcast is the traditional model for an activist organization is you have a Twitter presence means that you have a Twitter account and you have a Facebook account or a Facebook groups, so you're pushing content out from an organizational perspective. For us, we recruit people who use their own personal social media accounts to spread messaging and share from our toolkits, and so we have a good size presence on all those platforms, and TikTok too.
TikTok.
Which but you might not know it because it's not coming from the Demcast account. It's just coming from regular folks who are sharing the messaging. So, but we do have we've been in the last year in particular. In the 2020 cycle, we were mostly Twitter focused in terms of on platform organizing in Twitter direct message groups. But last year, we really tried to ramp up our Facebook group, and we actually have a few of them now. We have one that's focused on Ukraine as well, and we started making groups on Instagram as well.
Okay, so like the Facebook groups are private groups, and there's discussions in them. They're open groups.
They're public. Yeah, they're public
Okay.
because the algorithm favors sharing out of public groups, and ultimately the most important thing is getting messages out there. So we started with a private group, but we actually changed it to public and just try and do our best to weed out folks who are trying to make trouble or whatever, which is the downside of having a public group.
I don't want the video. How do I do that?
With your picture?
Please mute yourself, folks, if you just joined. So Nick, you mentioned Twitter direct message groups. Now, some people are newer to Twitter. Is that going to be easy for them to join on to something like that if they wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have volunteers that we affectionately call captains, but they're effectively moderators of those groups. And every one of our groups on Twitter has a captain or a moderator who can act as a support mechanism for folks who are maybe less familiar with or have never been in a direct message group. We all started sometime. I joined my first direct message group in 2017, but and had absolutely no idea what I was doing. So everybody starts somewhere, and we try and help bring people along.
Good. Now, one of the things that I've been really impressed with is a number of resources that are available to social media kits and graphics and all kinds of things that you can just grab and use on social media. Is that all coming from like people who join up who have skills to do that, or how do you get those things pulled together?
Yeah, we do crowdsource. So we're actually relaunching our whole sign up mechanism here within the next couple of days, so that when people sign up, they get immediate, we have sort of ladder emails set up depending on what kinds of things people sign up for. You'll get specific follow-ups depending on what you say you want to do, but some of those options are curation. So a big piece of what we do as a network is find content that needs to be spread or messaging that needs to be spread. And so, you know, having people who are like specifically dedicated to doing that, like in this January 6th thing, if let's say Adam Schiff posts a really good video that we need to amplify immediately so that we get it knocked into the algorithm, you know, having people who are on the lookout for that kind of thing so that we can get it out as quickly as possible is really helpful. And then and post writing too, people who are good writers who can take the content that we find and generate a sample, basically a sample post that people can click on and change, you know, to their liking, and then share through their personal accounts. That's really helpful. And then that moderation function is the other big thing that we're always on the lookout for, is people who are willing to or interested in learning how to moderate groups, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. But then the big one is just people who are willing to amplify, like people who are willing to become part of a community that's intent on sharing content and strong messaging and fighting disinformation and sharing that through their personal accounts.
So one of the things then you would probably say in anticipation of the January 6th committee meetings is to have people see what the resources are, join on to what Demcast is doing. How do they do that?
That would be great, yeah. So if you go to demcast.com/join, which I'll put in the chat here, that's our sign up page, and that's how you get started. And so after you sign up, we will follow up with a more in-depth sort of survey of how you want to be involved and what platforms you use. The reason that we do that is, one, when you get somebody when you're trying to sign people up for something, and you create the initial form and as like this long thing, then that's going to deter a lot of people from filling it out in the first place. So the initial form is basically just like name, email, cell if you're willing to share it, zip code, and then the having a second form then come via email is helpful because it also helps to weed out you know, Russians and, and other folks who may not be willing to go through a two-step sign up process. And also that second form is where we'll ask you questions like, what platforms do you want to engage on? And then based on which platforms you want to engage on, what do you want to do on those? Do you want to be part of direct message groups? If you want to be part of direct message groups, do you have any experience being part of direct message groups? And all that information just helps us help you and plug you in the right place and try and connect you with the resources that you need so you can be successful.
If somebody doesn't have a really very big following, let's say on Facebook, or doesn't have a lot of friends on Facebook, or not a big following on Twitter, is it still good to get involved with something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that social media algorithms work, content spreads because of interactions, and an interaction, if me liking a post on Twitter or Facebook gives that post the same amount of algorithm bump as you liking that post. You know, whether, you know, I have 230,000 followers on Twitter.
I don't.
If you have 100, it doesn't matter. It's the same algorithmic boost. So yes, everybody can make a difference. Obviously, as far as native posting goes, you might notice that like you putting out posts through your personal account, you might notice that you might get less traction on some of your posts than people with bigger accounts. But the benefit of becoming part of a network is you'll start to gain more of a community, more people, more mutual following of people who can be trusted and become sort of friends in the online space, and those boosts will come more frequently to your native posts over time. So it's an investment. I started my account right after Trump got elected, and have just been at it for 5 years, and that's how, and pretty diligently. So that's how I got to that size. But you can make a big impact with a smaller account for sure.
Some people say the Democrats are really horrible at messaging, but what's your attitude? And it seems like you're committed to, I don't know, change what people think about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I do have a little bit of a different take on this than a lot of people do. The deck is ridiculously stacked against the Democratic Party and elected Democrats in terms of messaging. The right wing has spent decades setting up a media infrastructure, and the left is way far behind in that. There's been some good movement with organizations like Crooked Media and Heartland Signal and other groups that are trying to come up behind the right-wing media infrastructure, but it's dominant. And that's just a deficit that we have in terms of getting, literally, like, broadcasting and getting a consistent message out. Another problem that we have is that the social media algorithms are favor conservative content. Because conservative content is about outrage and driving emotional responses to content, which is what triggers engagement on posts, and engagement on posts is what boosts things in the algorithm. So the fact that they're willing to lie and say outrageous things all day long and just cause controversy, just puts us at a disadvantage algorithmically on social media platforms. So we've got those two things going against us, and then we've got a mainstream media that refuses to recognize the fact that the Republican Party is a rising fascist organization, and continues to treat Democrats and Republicans as equal in some way, or tries to both sides stories all the time, even though that one side is trying to destroy democracy. So so that we're just at a huge communications disadvantage. And I think a lot of people who say, like, why aren't my representatives standing up for me? If you actually go to their social media accounts, it's entirely possible that they're saying the things that you want them to say. They just have, like, 15 shares or retweets on them because of all these things that I'm talking about. So I'm not saying the Democrats are perfect or that they're like messaging experts. I don't believe that either. But I do think that they get a worse rap than they deserve, because of the environmental circumstances of the media ecosystem. But that's where, like, bottom-up messaging is really important, because Tucker Carlson can say something to 2 million people who are watching him on Fox, but that message then ends up getting spread through Facebook accounts that then regular rank and file Republicans pick up from those Facebook accounts and spread actively on social media. And so a lot of the traction that they get, a lot of the spread that they get of their messaging is just regular people spreading it. And that's where we can come in and try and counter that.
So the individual can be powerful, even if it feels like, in terms of communication. If you're connected with the right other individuals.
Yeah, us as a network. We as a network can make a big impact. Yeah, each of us individually as a human being can't go out and save democracy. It's all of us doing it together and trying to work together to not make the same mistakes that we made in the past. I think a lot of people on the left see social media as a public square where you just kind of come and have a conversation and bad ideas back and forth, and that's great in theory, but the right wing treats social media as a battlefield, and they have soldiers, and they send those soldiers out to fire at us. And I think it would be helpful if more people started to think of social media as a battlefield, so that we aren't training fire on each other, where we are working together to try and defeat the people who are trying to destroy democracy.
Well, Nick, that's interesting, because I hear people say, well, I'm leaving Facebook because they don't like how Facebook is run, or, oh, Elon Musk is buying Twitter, I'm going to get off Twitter. What do you say to that?
I feel you. I hate Facebook in particular. I have to admit, I really, really just don't. I mean, just even aesthetically, I just don't like the platform. But especially because of how it's run, the good that they could do, but they refuse to do as a company, because they just want to make money, and a lot of them have ideological concerns as well. But Demcast is on Facebook because people are on Facebook, and Facebook is a place where people get information, and we can help get the right kind of information in front of more people if we work together on that platform, just like on other platforms. So yeah, if Musk actually buys Twitter, which I'm really hoping doesn't actually come to fruition, but if he does, I'm going to stay there. I encourage other people to stay there. Twitter especially, because the media narrative matters, and Twitter is where all the reporters are. Twitter is where, I mean, you see articles that have like random people's Twitter posts in it, like hot takes, and not always from like, the blue check influencer type people, but just from like regular people, abandoning that messaging platform in particular, I think would be pretty devastating, because the media is already tries to both sides stuff too much, and it would just become like, oh my God, no, it looks like the Republicans are winning. They sure are beating the Democrats. Democrats don't seem to have any fight in them left, and saying that because we evacuated the place where all the reporters are. So if for no other reason than
so hang in there is what you're saying.
Hang in there.
Yeah, and hang in on Facebook too.
And on Facebook too, until these platforms get regulated in the way that they need to be regulated, so that they make their algorithms transparent and fix them, so that they're pro-democracy and they're not spreading disinformation all the time. We have to be on there. That's my take. Of course, everybody is an individual. You have to make your own decisions. And I also get that, like, being on toxic places all the time and looking at terrible news all the time can have a devastating effect on your psyche and your well-being. And everybody needs to take breaks and be mindful about the information that you're taking in and the impact that it's having on you personally. But let's all hang in there as long as we can.
Well, Nick, I'm going to turn you over now to Linda Callis, because she's been collecting all the questions that came from the group. Thank you for talking with me, and I'm going to turn this over to Linda so she can pose some questions that people from the group put in the chat. Linda.
Hey, Nick.
Hello there.
Okay, so I'm going to start actually with a couple of questions that I have that will kind of feed into what other people have asked. So I'm going to go back to the January 6th hearings that we're going to be all watching carefully in June. What is the best thing? So you said we need to, fill the zone. So for an individual person, is the best thing for them to do is join Demcast, get kind of familiar with it, and then be just sharing whatever you guys are going to be putting out there during the hearings? Is that the best move for all of us?
Yes. No, we would love to have all of you guys sign up, but even if not, I think making sure that you're active on those days, that you're going to the committee's accounts, that you're going to on all platforms, that you're going to the individual members of the committee's accounts, because they're going to be sharing stuff consistently throughout, tracking news accounts and engaging with that content. So like it, share it, retweet it, quote retweet it, do comments. Comments are really important. Positive comments that reiterate the truth. That's a great way to help bump that stuff up in the algorithm so that more people see it.
And basically, for those of us that are not as up to speed as you are, when you say, find the accounts, basically, at least on Facebook and Twitter, you can just search for their name, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we will, if you join up with us, we will for sure, help steer people toward that content. But yeah, if you're just going by the seat of your pants, then yeah, just, there's some, you can just Google the list of the January 6th committee members, and then then look them up on platform. On Twitter, at least, you can create a Twitter list of all their accounts, so that you just get a feed of their accounts. And we can, if you join, we can help you figure out how to do that. I'm sure that we'll actually create one that people can subscribe to. So
okay. And then somebody had asked the question about, and I'll give what the Truth Brigade usually says about this, but I'm curious what you say. Should we avoid responding to people spreading disinformation, or is there value in sharing our message on those posts that are going viral? And we've already we learned, and we've told people, you should not respond to that. Because that will just amplify it. Create your own posts with the truth. Is that where Demcast is also? Normally,
yes. For the most part, I think that's the way to go. We do think that there are certain situations where if a particular post is going viral enough, that's like on the conservative side, where one individual interaction is going to have a negligible effect on the amount which that post is seen. There's a cost benefit analysis that you can do, where if you have a really good response, a truth-based response with factual links or content that you can put in there, or respond with a video that directly refutes that content, there's an opportunity there to not to have an impact on the person who posted that. If it's Tucker Carlson or Dan Bongino or Matt Gaetz or something, they're not going to read your post. They're not going to care. But the target in that case would be the people who are reading through the comments. And there might be some people who are troubled enough by what happened on January 6th. Maybe they lean red, but whatever, and they saw that post, and they're going through the comments, and there's an opportunity there to disrupt the narrative for a certain batch of people. If a post is really small, if it's not traveling at all, absolutely leave it alone, because then your interaction is only gonna boost it. and boost the disinformation. But if it's already flying, sometimes we do send people out to respond to specific posts where it makes sense to do that.
Okay. And then somebody made the point that, you know, if we're just kind of in our own bubble and sharing the same information with each other, is that really helpful, or is there a way to, you know, with our own posts, get it out there to more than just, I guess, our bubble?
I mean, honestly, I think commenting on conservative posts is the best way to breach the bubble. If you're inclined to want to do that, it's really hard otherwise, algorithmically, to reach the other side. What I usually say to folks, you know, when they say, like, aren't we just preaching to the choir, kind of, is, have you ever been on social media? I mean, it does not look like a choir to me. Our side is not lining up. There's all kinds of divergent information. There's circular firing squads around every corner, arguments happening. So I think it's, especially in a midterm year where it's a turnout election, we have to turn out our people, and they're going to try and turn out their people, and whoever gets the best turnout is going to win. You know, having a information ecosystem that's largely, you know, that's bubble-like, can be helpful if you understand that that's the case, and understand that you're mostly talking to people who are, in a large sense, inclined to agree with you on most things, on sort of the way the world should work and all that, and just trying to feed those people the truth, trying to engage them on the issues that matter to them, you know, show that there's one party that's trying to help democracy and another party that's trying to destroy democracy, so that we motivate everybody to get out and vote. Okay.
Is there a particular platform that you think is the best for kind of fighting this disinformation, or is it more whatever people are comfortable with?
I think we've had a very low success rate with people trying to jump in and make an impact on platforms that they're not comfortable using. It's frustrating. It doesn't make sense. You know, if you've always used Facebook and you're just a Facebook person, then try and make an impact on Facebook. If you're a Twitter person, then try and make an impact on Twitter. Last year, I dove in on TikTok. For a long time, I was just looking at posts, you know, just trying to find content. I eventually started to create content. It took me a year to figure out how to do that effectively, and I really had to try at it. And I do this like for a living. So, you know, I'm not dissuading people from trying new platforms. I think it's great, especially if you want to sort of do this stuff over the long haul. But yeah, my advice would be to just try and make an impact where you're the most comfortable and where you're most likely to return and sort of keep at it.
Okay, another question that somebody had, or like a comment, is you know, the GOP was promoting themselves as the silent majority or the moral majority. They've been doing this since the 60s. Is there a good way to counteract that? You know, because I don't think they actually, at least the ones that, you know, have some of those crazy beliefs, they're not the majority. So
no, they're not. It's so funny. They always say the opposite of what the truth is. They're the loud minority, right? I mean, they're not the silent majority. So, you know, it's tough. We're always looking for the one tagline or whatever that can help to overcome the deficits that we have on communications. But I think more than anything, it's about sharing stories and sharing facts that contradict that. You know, there's all kinds of all kinds of, I mean, just on Roe, you know, the fact that Americans don't want to walk down the path that the Supreme Court is about to send us down, right? And understanding that and trying to link link those people with the people who are actually fighting for the thing that they believe. And so trying to link the Democratic Party to the things that are excessively popular in this country as much as possible. You know, it's all contextual. It's like, how do you do that? Well, it kind of depends on what the news cycle is, or, you know, but trying to pay attention to what's happening in the news cycle, and then think about the fact that the policy, the pro-democracy, the pro-people policies of the Democratic Party are overwhelmingly popular, but the name ID of the Democratic Party is not. that's like the brand. We have a branding problem. Is just what I always try and keep in mind when I'm trying to refute stuff from the right, and just trying to link the brand ID as much as possible with the policies that people care about.
Well, pardon me. So I'm getting excited about trying to jump on, especially Nick, when the meetings come up, the hearings.
Mhm.
And I'm really going to encourage people to think about signing up with Demcast. I don't know if that link can be put in the chat again, because I think you guys have a setup where we can get information quickly and be able to share it and respond to it, and really join in your group of warriors out there, as I said, fighting for the truth. So,
And we did have a question, Nick, if you know,
Mhm.
we know what stations will be airing the hearings. Will it be everybody?
I know that I don't know, actually. I don't know the list, but I know that yeah, I wouldn't expect to see it on Fox, but I think the cable news, certainly you'll see it on MSNBC. I think you'll see it on CNN. I don't know the degree to which they've gotten the networks on board. I'd say you're likely to see it on PBS.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that they basically didn't want to move forward with setting these hearings until they were assured that they were going to be able to get the primetime broadcast. So I know that they will be up.
Okay, great. And the other thing we wanted to share, I don't think this has been in here yet, so I want to make sure, we love your graphics library. So I'm putting a link to the Demcast graphics library, which we like to put with our posts. And Linda had some technical issues, so I'm just going to step in here. And then your social media toolkits are great too. So if you've got a topic, just go ahead and pull it. And will you guys be doing something like this during that's probably a little asking a bit much. I just want to make sure that we have the up-to-date resources during the hearings to make sure that we're putting out the right messages rather than just blithering about, this is outrageous. Like, we want to put out effective messaging.
Yeah, we are going to have a January 6th toolkit that's going to be very, very actively updated. And it's the bones of that is actually already up on the demcast.com amplify link, which I just dropped into chat, and Candace dropped into chat. Thank you, Candace.
Yeah.
That's just the sort of, we sort of created that as the pre-hearing toolkit,
Right.
but that'll be very actively updated with video links and stuff that'll help to make really effective posts for folks.
Great.
okay. Well, thank you very much, Nick. thank you for giving us your time and, just all the work, the hard work that you're doing and all the people you've attracted to come along on this mission. Thank you so much.
My great pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I'll see you all out there.
Yes,
Okay.
good.
Bye.
Bye. So folks, we're gonna make a little segue here, and Candace is gonna lead us through a little thing about what we're all about, because some of you may not know all the stuff that we do. So,
Yeah.
or was I supposed to start? I think I was supposed to start.
Well,
You've got the slides.
I was going to say, let me share my screen and what we talked a little bit about what Truth Brigade is. And one of the ways we share that information is we've created the 5 commandments of truth telling for Truth Brigade. And I thought Ed and I would run through those for you now. So,
Yes, and the big one, we heard about amplifying from Nick, but what we pretty much are committed to is not to amplify disinformation, lies. And we did hear what Nick said, there might be an occasion, but primarily we're not responding. You see something from a friend of yours on Facebook that says something, and you're not going to go, oh, you are crazy, because it's just going to spread it more. So don't respond at all.
right. Just, yeah, whatever you do, don't hit the like, don't hit the angry button, don't answer back. But what you can do then is make a new post or, put the message out there and use the truth sandwich we've been talking about. So we just wanted to go through the truth sandwich just a little bit, talk about it more. The basic concept behind a truth sandwich is you start with a shared truth and you end with a shared truth, and you call out the lie and a bad actor in the middle. And the other way we address it is the 3 V's. We call it values, villains, and visions. And what you do is you start with a shared value to say to people, hey, we all think that this is the way, America should be. And then you call out, but there are some people who are doing something bad. And then you end with the vision of, if we stop fighting with each other and share our values, that can be the America we want to live in. That's a very broad one. But that's the concept, is values, villains, and vision.
And another thing, and this one really makes sense. We always use either links to credible news sources and or a graphic with the post. So I know whether it's on Facebook or on Twitter, the things that I look at have pictures. So we like to provide some of those news sources that would be good, because if you put the link to the news source, there's usually a photo with it, or you can find, and sometimes it'll be the Demcast toolkits, some images or some GIFs or video or still images that you can put with the post.
Yeah, it's great. The Demcast toolkits are great for that. You want to find something to go with the message you want to put out there. They're great. And commandment 4, we like to hashtag everything with Truth Brigade, which is the National Truth Brigade's hashtag, and then Truth Brigade IL, which is the Truth Brigade Illinois hashtags. And by putting those on Twitter and on other social media, it makes it possible to track what we're doing, where it came from, and what our effectiveness is.
And Nick talked about this a bit, about amplifying. Somebody's got a phone call.
That was me.
It's important not to amplify bad stuff, but it's important to amplify the truth. So on Facebook, that's liking something or loving something. It's writing a comment. It's sharing it with other people or in groups. That's important. And on Twitter, it's you can like something, you can retweet it, you can retweet it with a comment, with your own message, and that will expand it, or you can actually comment back to the person who created it. and be part of a conversation there. That all makes us go up the algorithm. And so it's going to be seen by more people.
And sometimes it's a great thing, because sometimes when you're just exhausted and you don't think that you can write anything coherent, you can just go to Twitter, find other things that people are saying and like them and retweet them, and you're spreading the word. So it can be really easy. So Etta, do you want to go? This is
Yeah, these are the best practices. And this has come from Truth Brigade National. Don't click or comment on the bad guys. This is important. Don't use the language of the liars, disinformers. If you name it, you spread it. And we find that's true often with journalists. This is important. Respond authentically and personally. Sometimes you'll see generic posts that we put out there, but what we're doing is giving you something that you can change and you can make yours. Don't argue, and really engage with those common values, those shared values. Don't respond with facts. This may seem strange, but raise questions. Gently share with persuadable people. Not everybody's persuadable. Don't bother with some folks. And then use Truth Brigade.
So we want to share an example. Sorry, my mouse is a little touchy there.
I was going to say, is it stuttering?
Yes, my mouse is stuttering. So here's an example that Truth Brigade National put together for recently for the January 6th, which I think is very relevant here. We were all horrified watching the events unfold on January 6th and hearing the lies run rampant about that violent attack on our country. That's our shared, that's our shared value, right? We're being horrified by that. Then the second part is power hungry politicians want us to move on. There's our villains we're calling out. Power hungry politicians want us to move on. And no thanks. And our vision, give us accountability and protect our right to vote. That's Truth Brigade, Illinois. And this is an image, sorry, that we put with that. There's a graphic that has been pretty popular that we like to go with that. Sometimes you need to, for Twitter, you need to shorten those to make them fit. But there's usually a way to do that. Etta, do you want to talk about our
Okay, so yeah, the big thing is we want to encourage critical thinking. I can't change your mind. I can't make you agree with me, but maybe I can encourage you to think. And so that's what we're trying to do with our post. Try to get people to stop and think.
The other thing that we do with our post is we're committed to fighting the racism and classism which divides us by utilizing race class narrative in our messaging. And if you're familiar with race class narrative, the basic concept is that that we need to call out in our messaging the fact that when we say we, you know, white people tend to think of, when they say we think all of us, right? And that for people of color, that they may not identify as that we. So we try to make sure that we call out, and you'll see a lot of our truth sandwiches that start with, regardless of your race, class, or zip code, or regardless of your zip code, you know, regardless of where you live or what you look like. The messaging is around bringing us back together again, because what the right has been so good at is pitting us against each other and dividing us. So we try to use that where we can, which can be a challenge in Twitter, especially sometimes, but that's one of our goals. Etta, do you want to talk?
Yeah, I mean, Truth Brigade Illinois is part of Truth Brigade, the national group. As of this past week, last week, there were Twitter impressions totaling almost 340 million since August 2020. And last week alone, it was almost 9 million impressions. That means number of times it was seen on people's feed. And we can't track Facebook but very well, but it's probably at least as much. So it's growing exponentially what we're doing. And I think if we join in some with what Demcast is going, they have a very big reach, and we can just be a part of something that's going to go really go wild here.
Yeah. And like,
Oh, can I say something? I
Sure.
noticed a couple of questions that just came on here. One was Connie asked if we use the messaging advice from Anat Osario, Anat Schenker Osario. And yes, we do. In fact, if you were in here in January for our meeting, the beginning of this year, we had Anat with us. And I know Candace and I regularly, and sometimes Linda, go to her briefings, and we try and employ things that she shares, which is very researched and is very based in something tangible.
yeah,
So
very
yes,
the race class narrative. And if any of you want to be inspired with positive outcomes, she has a wonderful what do you call those things?
briefing. Podcast.
Podcast. Sorry, just blanked on what they were. Podcast that words to win by, and she talks about what messaging works, and a couple of the inspirational ones. There's one that's great about Wisconsin and what worked there, and Minneapolis and what worked there, but particularly in Ireland and in Argentina, in the efforts to, they both have legalized abortion recently. And they talked about the messaging that worked there, which involved compassion. And you may see the videos going around now that are about the decision that a woman has to make and how that can be so tough. There's some wonderful videos. And that approach was very successful there. So we do try to take a positive approach, and she's one of our heroes. And we, especially on the race class narrative, that's where we get a lot of our race class narrative messaging. She's someone to follow.
Absolutely. I noticed another question here. John asked, why no TikTok? I'm trying. I have an account. I haven't gotten on it. Are you on it, John? Because we would love to have people get involved with doing things on TikTok, because that's a great way to spread some more.
It is,
Oh,
and
true.
a lot of young people are involved in part. You know, Nick was saying that you should do what you're most familiar with, but obviously we need to stretch out a bit too. And so I think that TikTok's one of those things where it would be smart of us to try to get some more messaging out there. It's just a matter of bandwidth and learning, which is part of what we try to do with our Friday sandwich shops, is try new things, help people set up Twitter accounts if they haven't done it before. And we need to work ourselves on TikTok and Instagram too, though.
Yes,
It doesn't work.
I use a little.
Yeah, it doesn't work quite as well. But
John, I put our email address in the chat. If you want to email us and talk about TikTok, maybe we can talk sometime, and you can help us maybe venture into that some. So
yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah, and give you some, I wanted to talk about our upcoming meetings, which we put in the chat already. And anyone who registered for this meeting, I'll send this out as a follow-up too. We have registration. Those are Fridays from 11 to 12:30. We're going to go every 2 weeks in the summer. And then we've got a meeting coming up. It's what we call it a workshop. It's just an hour on June 7th, 7:30. Do you want to talk a little bit about Michael Sparks and that meeting?
Actually, I think I spelled his name wrong. It's Michael Spikes. And
I'm probably, yeah.
No, I had put it wrong before. He's like, do you want to, no, you can leave the screen up. He's from Northwestern. He's taught media literacy for over 15 years in a variety of environments. He's getting his PhD right now. And he's going to come and talk to us about media literacy and how we can encourage others to be a bit more media literate and help them learn to be more critical about what they're seeing and what they're sharing, as well as ourselves too. So I think that's going to be an interesting meeting.
Yeah. The other thing we wanted to share with you is how to get involved with, oh, come on, stuttering mouth. We've got a Twitter account, and I will put these in the chat and we'll send them to you too. And we have an email, and you can sign up to be an official member, or you can join our Facebook group. We have a welcome document that kind of lays out a lot of resources and kind of how we work. And then Indivisible National has a Truth Brigade. If you haven't been involved before, you can join them. They do briefings every couple of weeks, and they have a Slack account where you can share resources and messaging, which is handy too. And then there's our Truth Sandwich Shop. So I will both send this out and put these in the chat. I mean, Etta, do you want to see if people have any questions for us?
Well, I know, yes, I'd like to, but I know that Barbara Haskett, I believe, had a question about how to get all this good information that's in the chat. And for all of you, if you don't know how to save the chat, here's what you do. You know where you would, Barbara, where you would write your question in the chat area? Right over to the right of that, there's 3 little things. One's looks like a paper, then a smiley face, and then 3 dots. Do you see that? And if you press those 3 dots, one thing that comes up, it's save chat. But I'll tell you what, we will save it and send it with a recap from today to everybody who attended. But you can try that, Barbara, and see if that works for you. So you can have it right away. Any questions or things that we didn't cover that we tried to? And if we're down, if you need to have a question you want to ask, you can unmute yourself and ask it. Barbara?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Hold on. Did I lose my video?
Yeah, but that's okay.
So I don't see the 3 little dots. I'm using my iPad, so I don't know.
Okay, iPads are different.
Okay.
We'll send it to you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll look it up later.
Yeah,
Sorry.
iPad I don't like doing stuff on iPad because of that.
Okay.
Meetings. Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Good. Jeff has a question. How can people tell the truth if they're not good at social skills? That sounds like a good discussion item for the future, because I don't know if we have a quick answer for that. But that, are you meaning if they're autistic?
Autism.
Okay, so can you still work in sharing the truth?
Yeah,
I
can't, but the telling it right, but how to communicate, how to share it, like I'm doing right now, mumbling, stumbling, and all that. That's the problem.
Okay, so it's harder face to face or talking to share the truth. That's why being on social media can be pretty powerful, because you can plan it out ahead, write it out, then share it. And it'll be much smoother. So it may be harder in person, but the reach is probably much greater if you're doing this on social media.
And that's one of the things I like about social media is, if you start to get an argument with somebody, you get angry, you get flushed, you end up being inarticulate, you try to shout facts at people. And I've learned to be better at having a reasonable conversation. But one of the nice things about Facebook and Twitter is you can do it in advance, you can work on it, and then you can put it out there. Or you can simply follow people who kind of think the way you do, and share what they're doing and have an impact just by the fact that you're sharing it. One of the things we didn't talk about that I thought was worth mentioning is people are like, well, we're just preaching to the choir because it's just my friends. Well, people, you don't know, people want to know what to think. So people who are like you want to know what other people think, because they haven't always thought it through, or they may not have access to the same information. So when they see that their friends are outraged about abortion or outraged about something that happened, then they feel more comfortable saying it and sharing it. So I think that when people say, well, we're just preaching to the choir needs some preaching, and people get a lot more comfortable with the message if they see it coming from people that they trust. And you're probably a lot more important source of information than you think you are. So yeah, don't worry about, arguing with your crazy uncle maybe, but there are people who need to hear what you have to say. And so I think I think that it's well worth putting some effort into it.
And
And-
social
I
skills,
comment
right?
on that also?
Yeah.
This
Who
is
is
Connie.
this?
This is
Okay.
Connie. So
Yes.
Anat's, one of Anat's messages is what the Dems need now, since they don't have the infrastructure that the right wing has, we have to come up with messages that the choir will be willing to sing. And spread the information to other choir members and then their families. Relational communication is very powerful. And
Yes.
we all know, we all probably know a couple of hundred people. If we get our families, friends, neighbors, coworkers, if we get them to think about these important issues we're engaged in and get them to vote accordingly, that's huge.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yes, it is. So it doesn't matter, who you are or where you are, you have a network that you can impact, whether it's on social media or in person. So very important. Candace, we've got a lot of exciting things coming up, and something we haven't mentioned because we don't have specific speakers lined up yet, but we're thinking about doing a program where we look about messaging to people who are of conservative religious backgrounds. Would that be of interest? Anybody find that interesting to have a speaker talk about that and how to connect to people with the background that's pretty conservative and religious and get the truth to them? That's something we're interested in. So also, and I think Marcy and Sarah will appreciate this. Even though I live in the metropolitan area, and so does Candace, and so does Linda, we are not ignoring the fact that life is different in more rural communities, and that messaging has to adjust to that. And so we're going to be addressing that some as we go to in the next couple of months.
Yep, there's so many things to pay attention to, but we're trying to work on them. But join us for a sandwich shop, or join us, join the membership list and check out our Facebook page, and we'll be happy to share information with you. Anything we can do to help people spread the word. And it sounds like if we can listen to the hearings and pick up on some of what Demcast is doing, we can do a lot to share positive messaging and get the word out.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to join up with that because I think we can get things fast and get it out there. So that'll be good.
All right.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Great to have you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. It's great.
Thanks.